Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swing and a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Welcome on, Chris Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Daniel Starkand, Blake Williams, talking about, I guess, an encouraging quote from Andrew Friedman. Finally get a chance to talk to him at FanFest. And he was asked about the Dodgers, the tax situation, and now that they are over, kind of what the next steps are. Daniel, I think there was some speculation. Would the Dodgers try and move a Chris Taylor type to get back under that threshold? Friedman confirms that is not the plan, that the roster as constructed, they are not going to be shipping guys out to save money. Were you surprised by this? Like, did you expect the Dodgers to eventually try and get back under?
I'm just kind of confused, like, overall, at, like you mentioned, that was not the plan. Like, what is the plan this offseason? Like, I know the Bauer thing probably changed some things, but to me, right where they are now is like the worst spot you could be. Like, to me, you either got to get below the luxury tax threshold and reset it so that you could spend more in the future, or you should be way above it. Like, you don't necessarily have to go to the length that, you know, Steve Cohen and the Mets are going, but to me, this is an organization that should be spending every year. They have the means to do that. And for some reason, they just chose not to this offseason. And it wasn't even to reset the luxury tax. So to me, I'm just kind of confused on what the overall plan is. Like, is the fact that they're staying over this year, does that mean they're not going to spend next year and they're going to get below next year? Because that means we're essentially going through 2 years in a row of this. So I'm a little confused. We'll see if there's any other moves to be made. Like, I guess they have between now and the trade deadline where they could continue to add salary. Obviously now, if they're not going below, you might as well keep adding. So we'll see what gets done, but I'm just kind of confused at the overall plan this winter.
Yeah, and Blake, I think that's sort of the common theme. I think all fans are confused about, A, why did we need to get under to begin with? And B, if the goal was to get under, clearly, by avoiding basically every major free agent possible, how do you still not? And so, Blake, the question I want to ask you is, Bauer is obviously the variable here. They didn't know what the result was going to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Does that excuse sit okay with you? Like, do you nod your head to that and say, you know what? Okay, I'll give them a pass on that one. Or should the Dodgers have had plans in place to accept the fact that some part of Bauer's salary, because it's not even his whole salary they were on the hook for, 50 games of this season, he's not getting paid for. So basically 2/3 of his salary is all they're having to pay. And they're, you know, somewhere between $6 and $10 million over by most accounts. Is that an okay excuse to you?
I don't think it's an okay excuse because it was in the realm of possibilities that they were going to have to pay Bauer. I think the main thing here is they didn't really like any of the contracts that were being given out this offseason. There were a lot of long-term, like 11 to 13-year deal kind of things, and they just didn't love any of the players enough to commit to that kind of contract. I mean, you can say they should have signed Verlander, but the Mets paid him a lot of money over 2 years, which it's understandable that they lost out to Steve Cohen, who's spending like crazy. But yeah, I've been saying they should spend more. They shouldn't have been trying to get under the tax at any point this offseason. But also to comment on Friedman saying they're not going to trade from their active roster, I don't think there's any obvious player they can trade from. Like, Chris Taylor might be their starting center fielder this year. So you can say, like, trade him to get back under, but then you might not have your starting center fielder. Like, Treinen might be the easy answer to say to help get them back under, but I don't think it's going to be easy to trade him because he's making $8 million and he's going to be out for most or all of the year. So there's just not like any obvious guy to trade.
Yeah, and if they were already over prior to acquiring Miguel Rojas, trading Treinen probably doesn't even get you under. Like, that probably puts you right on the margin. So I think it would need to be a Chris Taylor type. But again, Friedman's quote saying they won't. Daniel, just to pick up on what Blake said, because I think the other argument for this is maybe the Dodgers weren't necessarily dead set on getting under, and they just didn't like the Trey Turner contract, the Xander Bogaerts contract, the Justin Verlander contract. I actually think that's a reasonable take. Like, I didn't like any of those contracts either. And so in hindsight, saying like, well, do I wish I would have signed one of them now? I kind of go back and forth on that one. Like, does that sit well with you, Daniel?
I mean, I'm pretty much in agreement that all those 10, 11-year deals were pretty bad contracts, but I think there was stuff out there they could have done that were reasonable. Like, you look at Chris Martin, who was great for the Dodgers last year, signed with the Red Sox for like what, $7 million a year, like a 2-year deal. Like there were moves out there that could have improved this team that weren't the massive 10, 11, 12-year deals that were being handed out. So, and I get that a lot of that was pre-Bauer. So it definitely seems like the Bauer thing affected them. I do think they were planning on going under. But that just means they didn't plan well enough, unfortunately. So they're in this spot. And now, to me, you have to take advantage of this spot. And I've tweeted about this. Like, now you should be looking to spend more. And one way to do that is just by paying your own guys that you have already. Like, you should be looking to extend guys like Will Smith, Gavin Lux, if he's up to it, Miguel Vargas, if you like, anyone who is willing to sign an extension that will cost you more now, but will save you down the line as far as AAV goes. They should be looking to do that, because now you're over the luxury tax. So you might as well spend now. And if it helps you 2-3 years down the road, then that's huge.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And the other signing that I would say is Tyler Anderson's the other one. Like, if you were going to barely limp over 3 years and 30, that's the contract. We said it at the time. That's a good deal. Like, why are we not signing that contract? I get that they're going to get a qualifying offer comp pick back, but still, again, $13 million for 3 years for Tyler Anderson. You'd love to have that one back. Blake, do you agree? Going after a Will Smith, he's the guy that's been mentioned, but trying to sign him to an extension where maybe his AAV goes up $7 or $8 million this year, but then saves you, quite a bit of money on the AAV every year moving forward. Would you be in favor of going after and doing something like that?
Yeah, it makes sense for the Dodgers. I'm just not sure Smith would be open to it, because he's going to get paid when he reaches free agency. He's one of the best catchers. So it would be beneficial, especially if they are trying to get Ohtani or another big player in the future. But I'm not sure Smith would want to do that and lose out on some money.
Yeah, I'll make some phone calls over to the janitor and see if we can get some favors done.
I mean, it doesn't even necessarily mean he'd be losing out on money, because he'd be making a lot more this season, next season, his arbitration years than he would otherwise be making. If you look, the Braves just did the same thing with Sean Murphy after they acquired him, and he would have been in for a nice payday if he got to free agency as well. And I know the Braves somehow find a way to do that with everyone. Maybe Andrew Friedman needs to get Alex Anthopoulos on the call to figure out how he does this.
Yeah, and there's multiple ways to do it, to your point, right? There's option one is just buy out the arbitration years, take sign him to a 3-year deal or whatever it is. And option two is what most teams try and do is buy out, year 1 or year 2 of free agency also in exchange for a ton of guaranteed money at the front end. Obviously the Gonsolin deal doesn't necessarily impact that, but that's what they did there. They bought out a couple arbitration years for Gonsolin to get to a deal. So we'll see. But again, I guess if you're hoping for success this year, the good news is Chris Taylor, Blake Treinen, and those types, according to Andrew Friedman, will not be being traded in order to save the Dodgers money. So they're over the threshold. They're planning on staying over the threshold. Whether or not that means a National League West crown, a playoff appearance, a World Series run, all remains to be seen. We appreciate, as always, you guys joining us. Check out DodgerBlue.com for all the latest news and rumors. Dodger Blue 1958, obviously right here on YouTube. You can click subscribe, ring the notification bell, but check us out on Instagram. Give us a follow on Facebook as well. We'd greatly appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day. And as always, go Dodgers.